Alright, hello you absolute lovelies. It is Daredevil Born Again month at long last. It is Daredevil Born Again week. Heck, when you're watching this, it might be Daredevil Born Again day, or the show might have already come out, but either way, we have waited years for this moment, and I wanted to celebrate with some Daredevil comic recommendations. You can read these before you watch the first episode of Born Again, you can read these during the show airing, you can read these after if you want to get more of a fix, but these are specifically Daredevil comics I thought tied into the show's tone, story, sense of Daredevil. Now, I have a lot of favorite Daredevil arcs, and many of them are actually in here, but these are specifically Daredevil Born Again recommendations for that show. And if you guys want a favorite Daredevil comic video, please leave a comment below. While you're there, please leave a comment about these comics. I'd love to have a conversation in the comments about anything comic book. The internet, especially YouTube, doesn't really favor comic book videos as much. Movies do great. I do movie reviews here as well, and TV shows do great, but comics themselves, I want to grow that market, so let's have a conversation in the comments below. And also, if you're a comic fan, a movie fan, a TV fan, any of that stuff, please hit that subscription bell. When we hit 50K, I'm going to do a 50 comic giveaway, and I'm really excited to just have a way to talk about comics. A lot of times people are like, the movies and TVs don't affect the books at all. Even if it's just brand awareness, they absolutely do. But I know for a fact when a show or a movie comes out, it does help comic stores. People who do go check them out, and that's what I want to do here, is give you recommendations that'll help you check out some Daredevil stuff that ties into this incredible new show. So without further ado, I am going to have Daredevil Born Again on this list, but it's probably going to be in a spot that surprises you. We're actually going to kick off with a different Frank Miller Daredevil comic, and that is going to be the Daredevil Frank Miller that started it all with the Omnibus. This is the beginning of Daredevil with his Frank Miller journey. I'm just going to show you guys literally on my iPad because I didn't want to edit this because I wanted to get it up ASAP. Look for this cover. This not only has some great Karen Page stuff, some incredible Bullseye stuff, but the big thing that makes me want to recommend it for Born Again is it redefines the character. If anything is going to feel like Daredevil Born Again, which is taking 3 years of Netflix, blending it in with MCU stuff, putting it in this new world, Born Again, it's a redefinition of a character, which is what Frank Miller did. I feel like that is what the show is doing. It is blending, it is bringing to a new world, it is elevating, it is bringing audiences a new take. This, while still acknowledging the old take, while still building on the old take, this feels like a new creative team on a comic. This feels like a volume 4 as much as a season 4, and that's what I feel like Frank Miller really did well, is he was so in love with the character, he brought so much life to it, redefined the character, and that's what I feel about the show. So this is my first recommendation. It is the Frank Miller Omnibus. Born Again's not in here. It's going to come later in the video, but my biggest recommendation next to Frank Miller is going to be the Charles Soule Ron Garney run. Now, this is the cover of Volume 1. They were on the book for a few years. All of it is amazing. I would absolutely start with Volume 1. This is going to give you Mayor Fisk lead up. This is going to give you an incredible take on Matt Murdock. It's going to give you a lot of world building that I think is essential. Charles Soule is a genius. He's such a good writer. Ron Garney is one of my favorite artists alive. He did the Berserker comic with Keanu Reeves. We did a Hall H panel together. I love Ron as a human. I really love him as an artist. He invented Muse. Now this is Volume 1. Muse comes in Volume 3. You're going to look for this for Muse. Volume 3 of their run is this cover right here. It is incredible. It's called Dark Art. Muse we were introduced to in briefly the trailers, and you're going to see the character grow, and I think a lot of the conversation about New York is going to stem from this dark art storyline, and that take on Muse is going to be a great villain. Highly recommend this run. I would honestly start with Volume 1 and then go Volume 3, but guess what? There is actually a collection of all of it. I would highly recommend most this omnibus right here. Look for this cover. It's the whole run of everything Muse, all things Charles Soule and Ron Garney. This book is sensational. I'd recommend just the whole thing. So Volume 1 and 3 are in here. Look for this cover. Check out this book. That's my biggest recommendation for Born Again. After that run is one of my favorite runs of all time. It is Chip Zdarsky and Marco Checchetto's Daredevil that kicks off with Know Fear. This is some incredible Mayor Fisk stuff. This is some of my favorite Daredevil of all time. This run immediately follows Charles Soule's and Ron Garney's run, and I think it's very informative for who Matt Murdock is. I think it's great humor, but also great pathos. It's really dark and expressive, but also like there's moments of pure Matt. It's one of the best runs in comics. It lasted for a long time. Start here. It's going to keep going for a while. If you like this, just keep reading for a long time. The run that Chip Zdarsky does with Daredevil is amazing. This is the first cover you're going to want to look for, and it immediately follows that Ron Garney Charles Soule run, and it's a masterpiece. It's like an all-time classic on a character that's already classic. Those are your like must-reads. Those 3 are your absolute must-reads, but I'm going to give some love to some ones that I don't think are as directly related, but are really, really good general runs that have some details I think will incorporate. This is Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev's Volume 1. This, I think, will relate to the show in the sense of New York. I feel like the show is going to be very New York in like the way its tone is. I feel like it's going to be like A Burrow was Netflix, A Burrow is this new Born Again show, and I feel like this show captures an incredible specific type of New York that I think is going to play. Alex Maleev is an amazing artist. Like the detail in his work, I actually have this poster at home. Brian Michael Bendis is an incredible writer. I think he's a creative producer on the show. This run, highly, highly formative to Daredevil, and if you want the whole shebang, that's only Volume 1, but this is an omnibus collecting all of it. Again, I'd go this way. I do think the Bendis Maleev Volume 1 is a great place to start, but if you love it, I would say keep on going. It's really something special. I think it's totally a great vibe, and I think that big collection of all of it is going to really inform the tone of a new take on Daredevil in a unique way that ties into his city. So I would also recommend this one for some Kingpin goodness. This is the beginning of Ed Brubaker's run. It's hard to see there. This is called The Devil in Cell Block D. This is going to give you some really fun Kingpin and Daredevil in close quarters action. Ed Brubaker is the man who invented Winter Soldier. This is some really great Bullseye stuff. It's a really tense, almost political thriller in tone. I really think this is going to be a lot of the close combat style visual verbal fights. Like, it's not fighty, it's tense, there's fights. But like Bullseye, Kingpin, and Daredevil trapped is very much the feeling I'm getting, and I think this is going to be pretty great for that. And Brubaker's another incredible writer. That one doesn't get mentioned nearly as much as it should, and I highly recommend it overall. And then for a couple bonuses, now, so each one of these is a little bit more distant from a direct recommendation. Those first three, highly, highly recommend, like must read. Those next two are great Daredevil runs that are going to be tangentially related. This one, I would say, for a sense of guilt and like Catholic guilt and busting through barriers and things that I think Matt's gonna have to overcome, I'm gonna go with Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada's incredible Guardian Devil run. I wish this was better quality of an image, a little like pixely there. But this run right here is some of my favorites. Matt overcoming, Matt trying to figure out who he is, introspective Matt. Kevin Smith, such a good writer. Quesada art feels like a lot of the things we've seen in the trailer, so also visually I think this one's gonna tie in. And then the last recommendation for you lovelies before we get to Born Again itself is for the most fun run. If you liked Daredevil and She-Hulk, if you want a little bit more joy after the darkness of the show or the darkness of those other comics I recommended, check out Mark Waid and Chris Samney's run. This is Matt Murdock literally wearing an I'm Not Daredevil t-shirt at times. This is Matt in court. This is a little bit more lighthearted sitcom feel. After all that darkness, every so often Matt goes light. If you want a lighter Daredevil, I recommend the Mark Waid run. And the final recommendation in general, the end of this video, is Daredevil Born Again. Putting this at the end for a reason. This is deeper into Frank Miller's run than the first recommendation I gave you, but it's also a huge part of what informed season 3 of the Netflix show. I honestly think this won't be as formative in a lot of ways because Born Again's already been told in so many ways in season 3, and it actually might confuse people, but I do think elements of this will be used in Born Again. I think there will be some parts used, but I do think if you're not as familiar with comics, it might be confusing to read this and then watch the show. So if you're a comic veteran or if you've read the other stuff, this is just a classic. But if you're looking for a translation, in much the same way Civil War wasn't a one-to-one, I don't think Born Again is going to be a one-to-one because so much of this was informing season 3. But if you've read the other stuff, and if you want more Frank Miller, if you want more great comics, Born Again, highly recommend just in general, but I'd read some of the other stuff first. So to summarize, most important, I think of all, Frank Miller's first omnibus. Next up, I'm going to say the Charles Soule, Ron Garney one. That is volume 1. That is volume 3, the first appearance of Muse. That is going to be the whole shebang. Next up on recommendation is Chip Zdarsky's volume 1. Start there. If you like it, keep on going. Those are my 3 biggest recommendations. Frank Miller, Soule and Garney, Chip Zdarsky with Marco Checchetto. Marco Checchetto is now artist on Ultimate Spider-Man. He's one of the best artists working in my opinion. Incredible visual style, starts right here. And then if you want to keep on going, the Bendis Maleev run, get some sense of New York in that tone. That's volume 1. That's the whole shebang. Check out The Devil in Cell Block D. Not nearly as loved enough. Bullseye, Kingpin, Glory. And then we've got Guardian Devil from Kevin Smith and the great Joe Quesada. And then finally, for some light and fluffy, some Mark Waid, Chris Samney before you reread Born Again if you've already read it. All right, those are my recommendations. Let me know in the comments below if you check any of those out. I hope you do alongside the show. Comics are an incredible medium that I would love more people to help discover. A lot of those are on the Marvel Unlimited app. A lot of those will probably be found at your local comic book shop. Have a conversation with fellow comic nerds in the comments below. I want to talk to you about some of those. Let's chat about it. Please hit that subscription bell if you haven't already. I'll talk to you lovely soon.